We are in Las Vegas, Nevada, the T-Mobile Center, for the third and final stop on this really worldwide press tour from Riyadh to New York to now Las Vegas. Canelo Alvarez, the biggest star in boxing for most of the last decade, faces Terrence "Bud" Crawford, a man who still holds the distinction in the minds of many, including my own, as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I'm Max Kellerman, great to be with you, and it's great to announce the next member of our broadcast team, the one and only and excellent John Anik. It's a pleasure to be working with you, John.
Pleasure's all on this side of the table. A fight of this magnitude needed Max Kellerman's pipes on it, but I covered boxing from 2003 to 2008. I am so grateful to have this opportunity, and the responsibility of calling a fight of this magnitude certainly is not lost on me. I can't wait to dive into the preparation, but nobody I would rather be working alongside than you, and we will have further announcements on our broadcast team in the future. But you were celebrated in New York as you were announced last weekend on Sunday as the pageantry shifted from Saudi Arabia to New York City. What was it like sort of seeing this fight start to build?
I mean, you know, how many fighters have ever been called the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? These are two of them. Right before Canelo, it was Andre Ward. Then before him, it was Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones, Pernell Whitaker, Julio Cesar Chavez, Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler. You can go back to the 80s, you only mention about 10 guys.
Right.
There haven't been that many, ever. These are two of them. And they're being brought to you by His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, Dana White, and Nick Khan,
right,
who is president of the WWE. This is show business on a level that boxing really has never experienced before.
In terms of the amount of eyeballs that are going to be on this fight, I know that part of this equation is not lost on you. It's going to be one of the most watched boxing events of all time.
It will be easily the most watched boxing match, championship boxing match, in almost half a century. In 1978, Muhammad Ali fought Leon Spinks in their rematch. They did 90 million TV sets, not people, TV sets, right? There hasn't been a fight since then, with nearly the number of eyeballs on it. Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler, that was closed circuit. You're not going to do 90 million people. Mayweather and Pacquiao, they do 4 million pay-per-view buys. Even if 5 people per buy are watching it, it's 20 million people. Netflix just did a fight, not on this level,
right,
that did, what was it? 9 figures.
Yeah.
Not like you have over 100 million people. This fight will certainly be the most watched fight because of the platform.
Yeah.
In 50 years, almost 47 years.
And we're excited to bring it to you September 13th, of course, on Netflix from Allegiant Stadium. Canelo Alvarez putting his myriad super middleweight titles on the line against the fellow legend, the undefeated Terrence Crawford. Tail of the tape, so to speak, a little bit as well. Some punching stats as well. Alvarez will be 35 by the time the fight arrives. Crawford turns 38 2 weeks after the fight. Some of the numbers similar. Canelo has fought twice as many rounds in his near 70-fight pro career. He's about a 2-to-1 favorite right now. Certainly a legacy fight for both men. What is on the line for the bigger man, Canelo Alvarez?
Well, Canelo obviously doesn't want to lose to the guy moving up in weight. He is certainly going to be in the conversation for greatest Mexican fighter who ever lived. Julio Cesar Chavez, Salvador Sanchez. I mean, there have been some great Mexican fighters, but he is one of them. You know, and by the way, in the past, even Chavez, when he was the biggest draw in the sport, it was when Tyson literally wasn't fighting, right? Canelo Alvarez is the first Mexican fighter to be not only considered the best pound-for-pound fighter, but for years and years, the biggest money generator in the sport. To lose to Terrence Crawford would not be good for his legacy, certainly. But a win here, I think, would further his claim that he is the greatest Mexican fighter of all time.
Some mixed martial arts fighters, if not boxers, are reluctant to take on a smaller man because they see less upside. I don't see it as a no-lose proposition for Terrence Crawford, but do you think he has less to lose than Canelo Alvarez?
You know, it's interesting. Yeah, that's a very good point you just made. At first blush, yes. But the more you think about it, Crawford was promotionally frozen out of a lot of the name fighters once he got to welterweight. And at junior welterweight and at lightweight, there just weren't a lot of big names. And he made them look worse than they were anyway because he was so dominant. So a loss to Canelo Alvarez, at least for the, as they say, casuals, will mean it will in a way delegitimize what he's done to now, to those who don't understand that in fact he's fought better opposition than they realize. They just haven't been really famous guys.
Right.
But a win against Canelo Alvarez, I think for a lot of people, will legitimize his entire resume. No, not for the hardcore fans. But as I mentioned, with Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White and Nick Khan and Netflix, this is not just for the hardcore fans. In fact, it's not even mainly for them. This is for sports fans.
Right. That would be a signature win of the highest order were he to get it against Canelo Alvarez, a man who has finishes in 39 of his 63 wins. He has been a 4-division world champion. Experience in the big moments certainly jumps off the page. He has been very good when it has mattered a lot. I know you have talked a lot about his evolution, his developmental nature as a fighter. What is this version of Canelo Alvarez that we see in 2025?
Yeah, once upon a time, he was a counterpuncher by nature. He has very fast hands and a lot of skill and a great defense. His feet are not as fast as his hands. So rather than having to hunt guys down, he liked when they came to him. That's why Mayweather gave him so many problems. Austin Trout, Erislandy Lara, they moved, and they showed him movement. As his career progressed and he moved up in weight, and to this day now, he got bigger and stronger, and guys started moving away from him, and he had to figure out a way to hunt them down. So instead of being a guy who just followed his opponent around as he did early in his career and lost those fights or was competitive, won very competitive close fights, he learned how to cut the ring off. The last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, he's been that kind of fighter. So it's not that he doesn't have a deep bag, as they say, right? It's not that he's not a well-rounded fighter, but he hasn't been called upon to use those skills in a while. If it becomes the kind of fight where he needs to, the question is, can he count on that muscle memory that really he hasn't used in a long time?
Great way to put it. We'll find out September 13th. And of course, out of the blue corner is the undefeated Terence "Bud" Crawford. 31 knockouts across his career, good for a finishing rate. Knockout percentage of 76%, 4-division world champ, and at present number 3 in the Ring Magazine pound-for-pound rankings. Switch hitter, what has made him such a prolific boxer and finisher over his career?
A lot of guys with Crawford's skills and talent. There's talent, which is what you're born with, and then there's skills, how you hone it, right? Crawford has high level at both. But a lot of guys will use that to take a safety-first approach, because Crawford has a lot of advantages. Long arms, he's quick, he has a good defense when he wants to. He can switch hit, as you mentioned, fight forward, backward, body, head, power. But he chooses to apply those skills aggressively. So, and he's a finisher. He's just a mean guy in the ring. So it's been a while since we've seen that kind of package, at least in the welterweight division. We saw Floyd Mayweather use those kind of gifts to neutralize his opponent. Crawford has used them to beat his opponent up, and that's really what makes him different than a lot of fighters really who've ever lived.
And meanness really does matter in combat sports. Now, in terms of adding muscle mass, I'm not the guy to talk to. I'm probably 25% body fat, but how much muscle mass can Bud Crawford really add to try to add some size into this equation?
I think quite a bit. First of all, he's a wrestler. Like, he can wrestle also. He's a physically strong guy. He's an athlete. But, when you look at Canelo Alvarez, you're looking at a guy with a bigger skeleton than Bud Crawford. So I don't know how much it matters that they come in weighing, within shouting distance. If Crawford comes in on fight night weighing 170 pounds and Canelo's 180, I think it's not just a 10-pound difference. Canelo's physically a bigger guy.
Denser, bigger bones. All right, Max is going to head downstairs to handle some business, but we are just getting going. I will send it downstairs for the press conference festivities. Here is Michael Buffer.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the final press conference of the World Tour for the fight the world has been waiting for. On Saturday, September 13th, right here in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA, at Allegiant Stadium, it's champion versus champion. As two of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world will collide in a once-in-a-lifetime matchup. Undefeated, 4-time 4-division world champion Terence "Bud" Crawford will take on as a challenger the 4-division reigning and defending champion Saul Canelo Alvarez for his undisputed and Ring Magazine Super Middleweight Championship of the World. And it's all live on Netflix, a Riyadh season event presented by the General Entertainment Authority, Fatal Fury, Sella, TKO, and Ring Magazine. So, ladies and gentlemen, from Las Vegas to Riyadh, from Rio to Johannesburg, from Sydney to London to Hong Kong, from Netflix to every screen on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Boxing is the purest form of sport. It is the literal imposition of one man's will on another. That's why boxing's biggest fights are massive cultural events. And when you get two of the greatest fighters who've ever lived, you're about to witness the best moment in sports. And that moment is now upon us.
I've done it all, and I've seen it all. Yeah, they doubted me, but I beat them all.
Terrence Crawford, the best in the world.
He remains undefeated.
I got all the belts on my waist and on my shoulder. This is the Terrence Crawford era.
Who do you want next?
Well, you already know who I want.
The undisputed super middleweight champion of the world.
This is a resume that is Hall of Fame worthy.
He's the king of boxing. I'm the greatest the world's and the best to ever do it.
Esta pelea lo que se ha llevado en torno, lo que la gente ha querido ver, es mucho más grande que las demás.
This is a fight that's been marinating for years. I've been preparing my whole life for this moment. This is one of them fights that will be talked about forever.
Canelo Alvarez, one of the greatest Mexican boxers of all time. All of Mexico is marching with him.
¡Viva México, cabrones!
Terrence Bud Crawford. He is on a whole nother level.
It doesn't get any bigger than this.
This is truly a super fight.
The sport of boxing will change forever.
Welcome to Las Vegas for the Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford press conference. It's a once-in-a-lifetime fight, and the clock is ticking down to September 13th, when boxing history will be made as two of the world's best collide for the undisputed and the Ring Super Middleweight World Championship. Live from right here in the fight capital of the world. Let's get started with the challenger. A man who has remained perfect through 41 professional fights with 31 knockouts. He's a 4-division world champion from lightweight to junior middleweight and the current WBA and interim WBO junior middleweight champion. Please welcome the Ring's #3 pound-for-pound best and Omaha, Nebraska's own Terrence Bud Crawford. And now, the champion. He's held world titles in 4 divisions, from junior middleweight to light heavyweight. One of the most prolific counter-strikers and body punchers in the world. This man is set to make his 68th walk to the ring. He is the undisputed king at 168 pounds. The first and only man in boxing history to achieve that feat. The Ring's #8 pound-for-pound fighter and the pride of Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. Here is Canelo Alvarez.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name... Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faisal Bafarat. I represent Riyadh Season, who proudly bringing us this card in Vegas. Finally, this is happening. This is what most critics call the fight of the century. Two of the greatest fighters of all time, Canelo and Crawford, finally facing each other, and we're very thrilled to have that. I want to thank the Crown Prince for his support, and His Excellency Turki al-Sheikh, whose vision brought us this event, and we look forward for an amazing fight.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming out today. Who's got the first question? Go ahead.
All the way in the back on the riser. I'll start with Canelo. You know, this is International Fight Week here for the UFC. We're used to seeing Dana up here, but we're not used to seeing him promoting boxing. So I guess, what's it been like here in the biggest fight week in UFC every year working with Dana White?
I always like Dana White, you know. You guys make us like look at we are competing, but no, I'm not. I always like Dana White. I like and I respect all the UFC fighters. And I think this, we can show people if we are together, we can do big things. So I'm very glad to work with Dana White and obviously everybody involved in this big fight, Turki Al-Ashi, Netflix, Nick Khan, everybody. So I'm glad to go with this guy. So I always like him and he knows.
Similar question for Bud Crawford. You know, a lot of MMA fans, UFC fans, may not have ever seen you fight before, and they might tune in because Dana and the UFC are involved. So what has it been like maybe introducing yourself to a lot of MMA fans?
Say that again.
What's it like, you know, Dana, you got it.
I don't think you did your research by saying a lot of MMA fighters haven't seen me fight before. I think that's wrong. I got a lot of fans, friends that's been in the UFC, MMA field, being that I got a wrestling background. When I'm at the UFC Performance Institute, I got so many UFC fans want to take pictures that know who I am, so I don't know where you got that from.
And one final one for Dana. You know, for a long time, you've wanted to promote boxing. You've wanted to make a few changes. So I guess, what are you most excited for to introduce to boxing? Because this does kind of feel like a UFC production here at the press conference.
Well, you know, obviously, I've been talking about boxing for a long time. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for boxing. And I said it, you know, leading up to this. For this to be my first boxing match that I'm promoting is pretty surreal and incredible. And like Canelo was saying, the great thing about working on this fight, other than how epic it is and it's a once-in-a-lifetime fight, I like both of these guys. They're both really good guys. They're great to work with, so we're looking forward to it. This is going to be fun.
Question for Canelo Alvarez. Canelo, last time we did one of these press conferences, you actually ended up shoving Bud at the end of it. What exactly caused that?
I'm new in English, so your English is a little bit... Can you speak a little bit slowly? Oh, no. Got it. You know what? I didn't. He did before. He tried to welcome me back, and it just was my reaction. That's it. You know? You know what kind of fighter I am. I always try to respect my opponents, and I think he don't did them because he really wanted to do. I think Turki Al-Ashi told him, you need to do something, and he did. And now before I respect his word because he say, oh, I'm not gonna let somebody to tell me what I need to do. And he did, so. But you know me. I respect everybody, but if you fuck with me, so it's gonna be different.
Terence, is that true? Did Turkey Al-Sheikh ask you to spice things up?
Turkey didn't ask me to do nothing. I didn't touch him.
You know.
Listen.
Hey, we know, buddy. We know.
First and foremost, somebody was in the room saying that I was scared of them. So I stepped to him and showed him who was the boss of this fight. I ain't scared of shit.
Hey, I never say that. Your uncle say that, not me.
I ain't scared of shit, and you're gonna find that out. As you seen, the last press conference,
we'll see.
When I walked you down, when you were supposed to be the bigger man.
Yeah, hey, you say that because you're fighting with nobody, and you obviously look like you're a great fighter. But you find out September 13th, this is gonna be different for you.
And it's gonna be different from you as well.
Question for Canelo.
The last fighters that you fought, they ain't on my level. And
I fought everybody.
The last fighters you fought since 2002.
Mention me one. You mention me one elite fighter. Just one.
You.
Oh, me.
Look,
it's gonna be me.
I don't care about nobody else.
And you will see that.
You. So when I beat you, is you gonna be a nobody? When I stump a mud hole in your ass, is you gonna be a nobody? You're gonna be just like everybody else. Watch. Same shit that everybody else been saying since I moved to 147, I ain't fought nobody. Every last one of them stump a mud hole in their ass and he gonna be next. Watch.
Question for Canelo Alvarez. You both are making history in this fight, and you've been in that spot before that Terence is right now. You moved up to chase greatness. So how do you compare that spot to the one you're in now, where you're fighting the guy who is moving up to chase greatness?
I've been in his situation before, and I know, it's gonna be a good fight. Believe me, it's gonna be a good fight. I'm gonna bring my best. I know he's a good fighter, but this is just different.
I'm a great fighter.
You see what happened when a good fighter jump up and his opponent is great fighter. So you're gonna find out.
So that means you're a good fighter and Bivol is a great fighter, right? Right? Is you a good fighter or a great fighter? Let me know.
I'm a great fighter.
So you got your ass whooped by a good fighter, right?
You're a good fighter.
I'm saying.
But I'm great.
Okay.
And question.
Well, every time you stepped up, you lost. Great fighter.
I'm not.
Right. Question for Terence Crawford. You're daring to be great, like they say. So how do you approach not only fighting an opponent as credentialed as Canelo, but also moving up to chase greatness and dare to be great?
Listen, like I always said, I'm a big fan of Canelo. He's a great fighter, but I think I'm better. I think, everything that I have inside myself, with the tools that I have, I'm capable of doing anything that I want in the ring. And come September 13th, I will become the first male 3-time undisputed champion of the world. Simple.
Who's got the next question? Go ahead.
Pregunta para Canelo. Ya escuchaste la reacción de la gente mexicana aquí adentro. Escúchalos.
¡Viva México, cabrones!
¿Cómo se siente tener el apoyo de una nación entera y de toda la gente mexicana que está aquí?
Canelo, you've heard the support of the crowd. Can you hear them? You hear them screaming. What does it feel like to have an entire nation behind you for this fight?
La verdad es que me siento muy contento, me siento muy agradecido con todos ustedes, porque a lo largo de mi carrera siempre me han apoyado. Me siento muy contento de poder representar a mi país. En otro país, de pintar la bandera mexicana y estar involucrado en este tipo de peleas, en peleas grandes. En el fin de semana de la independencia para mí es un orgullo. Muchas gracias a todos por su apoyo y que viva México, cabrones.
I feel very happy and very grateful for everybody here, for everybody that's been with me throughout my career. An opportunity to paint that weekend of the colors of Mexico in the weekend of the independence of Mexico. Thank you for your support.
Question for Canelo Alvarez. The Mexican people travel everywhere to see you. How loud is it going to be on September 13th?
Oh, it's going to be big. You barely gonna can't talk with your girlfriend. Believe me, it's gonna be big.
And question for Terence Crawford. Your coach, Bo Mack, is here. How special is it to represent him on the biggest stage in the world?
Well, listen, man, we represent it for all of us. You know, I know Canelo got a big fan base, but there's only one thing you got to keep in mind. They can't fight for him.
Go ahead, who's next? Go ahead.
Canelo. Pregunta para Saúl Canelo Álvarez en directo desde España, desde el partidazo de COPE. Ilia Topuria siempre ha dicho que te tiene muchísimo respeto, que sería un sueño llegar a pelear contra ti si algún día se pasa al boxeo. ¿Cómo ves a Ilia como boxeador y te gustaría que algún día llegase a darse esa pelea?
Ilia Topuria has said he respects you a lot, and he would love to fight you if he ever came into boxing. How do you see him as a boxer? What would you think of a fight against Ilia Topuria? How would you feel?
La verdad es que nunca lo he visto pelear bien, una pelea completa, pero para mí es un honor que obviamente agarren un poco de mi boxeo. También mis respetos para todos, para todo tipo de peleador, mis respetos para todos, y lo de la pelea, bueno, ya veremos después, ¿no? Ahora sí que primero lo primero. Le deseo lo mejor.
First of all, I have never seen him fight a full fight, like a complete fight, but I really love what, and I respect a lot, and I admire, and thank you. And I have a lot of gratitude for fighters that, take a little bit of my fighting and respect it. It's awesome to see other fighters like me. But let's see, as far as the fighting against him, first things first. Let's hear about this now.
Go ahead, sir.
Question for Terence to your left. There's a narrative that's built over the last few years that Canelo's best days may be behind him. Given that narrative that's emerged, do you think that you're going to get the credit if you do beat him?
I don't know. That's not a thing that I focus on. I just focus on what I need to focus on to get the job done. And so be it. If I get the credit, I get the credit. If I don't, as long as I got the victory.
Will that be frustrating? Because a lot of people have also not necessarily poked up.
It's not frustrating because I've been dealing with it my whole career. So it ain't nothing new.
And question for Saul, what do you make of people saying that your best days are behind you?
We'll see, September 13th. They can't talk, but you will see.
Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
One for Terence, one for Dana. Terence, every time that you fight, so much is being made of your resume. Constantly people are saying, who have you fought? How much does it motivate you for this fight? To actually hear that you're the underdog and that your resume is again being questioned.
Listen, that just tells how great I am. When I fight somebody that they portray to be somebody, I make them look like nobody, and they say, oh, well, he was that much better than this guy. He shouldn't have been in the ring with him. So I'm motivated. I'm always motivated. And come September 13th, like I said before, I'm going to make everybody cry when they go home.
Question for Dana. Dana, you've often said that you hated the idea of a stadium fight. What's it mean for you that this stadium fight is actually in Allegiant and in Las Vegas?
Yeah, well, the fact that I don't like stadiums because I feel like the experience isn't great for fights. So it's my job and my team's job to make sure that the experience, the live experience inside Allegiant Stadium is the best anybody's ever seen in combat sports. So that's our challenge going into this thing. And, we did the Sphere in a short amount of time, so I guarantee you we'll pull this off too. Thanks. Go ahead.
Question for Canelo and Dana. Have you made up after Dana made you wait for that Kovalev fight all those years ago?
The platform made me wait, but I get mad after that. No, about him. I never wait for anybody.
What was the question? We make up after what?
Did you make up after the Kovalev incident a couple of years ago, where you made him wait a few hours for his fight while you had a show in New York?
I don't think we ever had a beef about that. We've never. Listen, I've known Canelo for a while. We've never had a problem ever. Super nice guy. People are good people. Same with Crawford. It's a great situation because I actually really like both guys.
Another question for Canelo. Your old opponent, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., is fighting on Saturday. Do you have a prediction for that fight? How do you think it's going to go?
I hope Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. beat Jake Paul. My support is with Chavez Jr.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Question for Dana. How did UNLV come to an agreement to secure this fight date on September 13th?
I have no clue.
And question for the fighters. How are excited for you to fight at Allegiant Stadium?
I'm very excited to fight there. You know, it's going to be the first fight in the stadium, and for me, it's always great to see so many Mexicans there cheering for me. So I'm glad to be involved in this fight.
I'm happy to stage the first mega fight at the Allegiant Stadium, and looking forward to, you know, all the big things that they do in the future with the sport of boxing and UFC.
Go ahead, sir.
Saúl, buenas tardes. Saúl, ahorita mencionaste, has peleado en septiembre muchísimas ocasiones. ¿Qué promesa le das a la afición mexicana para esta después de lo que pasó con Skull? ¿Cuál es la promesa para este 13 de septiembre por parte tuya?
So you've fought on September and that date and that around that weekend many times in your life. And what promise are you making to the crowd after the Skull fight?
Oh, de mi parte, lo que a mí me compete, siempre he dado lo mejor, tratando de dar lo mejor, de hacer una buena pelea. De mi parte, que quede bien claro que voy a tratar de hacer lo mejor para que la gente salga contenta y que de mí no quede.
For my part, you always have a promise that I'm going to work hard and I'm going to give my best, and I'll tell you what, nothing's going to be left. I'm telling everybody, nothing's going to be left out there. I'm going to give my best.
Ya por último, en lo que has analizado el estilo de Crawford, ¿qué debilidades o qué momentos tú crees que puedes aprovechar de él?
And from you analyzing, from you studied from Crawford's style, what kind of loopholes and what kind of weaknesses do you see that you may be taking advantage of?
Mira, es muy difícil podértelo describir en este momento, ¿no? Tenemos todavía un tiempo para poder verlos. Lo que sí te digo es que un peleador como Crawford va a ser difícil verle debilidades, pero he peleado con todos los mejores. Entonces tengo la experiencia de poder adaptarme a cualquier situación.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's really early in the process. We still have a lot of months still until for this fight, but it's going to be hard to find some weaknesses in Terence Crawford is a great fighter that he is, but I fought the best, and I've always found weaknesses, and I've always been able to adapt to any situation.
Go ahead, sir.
I got one for Canelo, one for Bud. For Canelo, what's the difference between preparing for a bigger fighter like Bivol compared to a smaller fighter like Bud?
Oh, you need to gain weight when you move up, and it's complicated. Both parts is complicated. I mean, for my preparation for Crawford is gonna be different. Obviously, I need everything: speed, power, moves, everything. So it's gonna be different. My sparring partners, everything needs to be correct.
Got you. My man Bud, will a win over Canelo put you ahead of Mayweather as the greatest boxer of this generation?
Listen, I leave the opinions to everybody else, but like I said, after this fight, when I defeat Canelo, I'm gonna be on Mount Rushmore. That's where I'm gonna be.
Go ahead, sir.
Hola Canelo, una pregunta para ti, soy London de la Oreja de Coliflor desde Colombia. Hace unos días tuviste la rueda de prensa en New York con Dana y con Terence y pues comentaste este tema de que él no tiene un resumen de Elite Fighter
comparado al tuyo, que has peleado con Triple G, con Floyd y con muchos otros, ¿cómo tú posicionas esta pelea en un ranking si podrías así fácilmente con él?
So in this past weekend in New York, during the press conference over there, you actually mentioned that he didn't have that strong of a record, just like you, that fought Triple G, that fought other fighters that are really up in their level, like Mayweather. Where would you rank a fight against Terence Crawford in the ranking of your fights, if you could?
No, eso no quiere decir que no sea un buen peleador, ¿no? El que no haya enfrentado a un buen peleador, un elite fighter, no quiere decir que no sea un buen peleador, ¿no? Obviamente va a ser una de mis mejores victorias en mi carrera.
That does not mean he's not a great fighter. That doesn't mean he's not a good fighter just because of the fact that I mentioned that. But I'll tell you what, a win against him is going to be one of the best wins in my career.
Gracias. And quick question for Terence. Terence, well, the talks about him, about your resume, that you're not a elite fighter. After this fight, how would you rate yourself as a boxer in general?
Well, listen, you know what I mean? Like I said, a win over Canelo will put me on, you know, Mount Rushmore, and I really believe that.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Go ahead, ma'am.
This fight is named Once in a Lifetime event. There has been a lot of talk about who was your best win for both of you. This question is for both Saul and Terence. When you reflect on your career and all the victories you've achieved, is there one particular fight for both of you that stands out as the most meaningful and you said, damn, I did that with pride?
I would say for me, you know, the most meaningful fight for me was becoming a world champion, you know, but in the fans' eyes, my biggest moment was against Errol Spence.
For me, I have many, but I think with Triple G is one of my biggest.
Go ahead, sir.
So I got two questions for Canelo Alvarez. The first one is, would you consider yourself to be the best Mexican fighter of all time?
No, I don't want to answer that question. I think my resume when I'm retired is going to talk, and I want to wait.
And the second question is, would you move up and weight to fight Bivol again?
Yeah, why not?
Go ahead, sir.
Question for Terence Crawford. Bud, undisputed at 140, undisputed at 147. If you become undisputed at 168, where do you feel like you would rank in terms of the greatest fighters of all time?
Well, when I become undisputed, like I said, I'm going to be on Mount Rushmore. I keep saying the same answer. Y'all keep asking me the same thing in different ways, but like I said, a win over Canelo Alvarez will put me on Mount Rushmore, and you know, I'm done with talking about it.
And just a quick one from Dana. Dana, where does this rank for you personally in terms of the biggest fights you promoted or you've been involved with?
Yeah, I mean, obviously my first boxing fight ever. This is one of those fights that, you know, again, Sheikh Turkey, Saudi Arabia, without them, these type of fights wouldn't happen. And these are the kind of fights that you'd be talking about in 10 years that you wish you would have been able to see. That's what this fight is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Miguel Maravilla with Fight News. Dana, how would you compare this event? You've promoted numerous MMA, UFC events, and now this boxing event.
What I always try to do, and I've always tried to do since day one, is put on the best fights with the best fighters in the world. And like I just said to that guy, you know, this is one of those fights. He's moving up in weight, undefeated, you know, all the things that these two have accomplished in their career, and the fact that anybody's even saying to Terence Crawford, oh, does this mean, it's fucking ridiculous. These are two of the baddest motherfuckers of all time, and they're gonna face off at a higher weight class, and they're gonna fight, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime fight.
Terence, you made your big splash here in Vegas when you defeated Brady's Prescott. What's the difference now coming into this fight?
There's no difference. You know, Brady Prescott was supposed to be this big, strong, power puncher with all the experience, just like Canelo. Been in the ring with great fighters like Amir Khan, knocked him out in the second round. You know, so he had the resume. He had the fights. So, you know, that was years ago, though. I'm a way totally different fighter now. you know, and I'm going to prove it September 13th. You can believe me, you can doubt me, but September 13th, I assure you I'll be walking away with my hand raised.
Saúl, ¿cómo comparas esta pelea a ambas peleas que has sostenido? Tu primera pelea contra José Miguel Cotto aquí en Las Vegas y ahora ya en el estadio de Allegiant.
So how do you compare this fight against your fight against Cotto and now in Allegiant?
No, totalmente diferente. Soy otro peleador con más experiencia, con más madurez arriba del cuadrilátero. Totalmente otro peleador. Obviamente he crecido muchísimo en todos los aspectos y la verdad que muy contento ver todo lo que he logrado durante todo este tiempo.
Very different. Listen, I'm a different fighter. I've evolved. I got experience. I got maturity. I feel like a different person on top of that ring, and I think very different from everything in every aspect.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
All right, I think we got 3 more questions here. Go ahead. You're first.
Yeah, Steven Cureño, KOR Sports. My question's for Canelo. Recently, on social media, a rumor came out that you rejected an offer from Elon Musk and Tesla to on a sponsorship based on just, you know, how ICE and Mexican, your people...
I don't want to talk about that, buddy. We're talking about fights. But I always support my people.
And then, question for Terrence. How do you make sure you're putting on the right weight to be effective at 168?
Well, do it look like I'm putting it on right or wrong? So we'll see. Come fight night, we're gonna see if I gas out or if I can't handle the pressure or what and what. Let's see.
Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Canelo, UFC ya tuvo 3 campeones mexicanos, Alexa Grasso, Jair Rodríguez y Brandon Moreno, quienes han sido grandes exponentes con el striking. ¿Qué características crees que comparten tanto los peleadores como los boxeadores mexicanos como tú?
Canelo, there have been 3 Mexican champions in the UFC, Brandon Moreno, Alexa Grasso, and Yair Rodriguez. And how do you compare their styles, and what do you think they pull from boxing, from Mexican boxing into the MMA world?
Es muy fácil esa pregunta. Somos mexicanos.
The answer is very easy. We're Mexican.
This is the last one. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, question for Canelo. Who would you rather fight, Mike Tyson or Jake Paul?
I should have made it 2 more questions.
I got another one.
Oh, we can't wait.
Say the next one, please.
All right. As a content creator and fan of boxing, what do you think? Should content creators get out of boxing?
Los creadores de contenido tienen que salir del boxeo.
What's the question?
Who should content creators get out of boxing?
Yeah, I'm asking, should content creators...
Listen, there's always going to be fights that people want to see, whether it's content creators or whoever else. I really don't give a shit, one way or the other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good fight, guys.
Thank you, guys. We're going to rip this stuff out of here, do the face-off, and then the UFC weigh-ins will be next. Thanks for coming out.
For decades now, boxing's most formidable opponent has been, well, boxing. Not the fighters, but the business. Negotiations that prove treacherous.
The sport is broken and fragmented. You can't make the fights that everybody wants to see.
Torturous.
How many years have I been clamoring so we can get the fights that we want to see when we want to see them?
And ultimately fruitless. That left generations of fans asking, what if?
We have a big vision. The sport is very important for us.
What if kings would meet? What if they were likely the 2 greatest active fighters of the 21st century? The sport's biggest draw.
Big shot by Canelo Alvarez.
And its savviest predator.
Crawford pouring it on. That's it. The fight's all over.
What if Canelo Alvarez fought Terrence Crawford? guess what? No more what if. It's on.
Well, the intensity has officially been ratcheted up a notch from New York City to Las Vegas. Welcome back to the broadcast position here as we continue press conference festivities here for Canelo versus Crawford. And now we turn our attention to another man of our broadcast team, Mark Kriegel, who now shares with us a closer look at one Canelo Alvarez.
If the first thing you noticed was the hair, you weren't alone. A sign of his singularity. Mexican fighters comprise a long and glorious history. But across decades that span millennia, this Mexican fighter has done something his predecessors couldn't imagine. Not merely a pro at 15 or a champ at 20, but for almost a decade now, Canelo Alvarez has been boxing's leading man. Not to mention its undisputed box office king.
Now what they gonna say? I'm the best fighter in the world.
While the game itself depends on Mexican fighters, this is the fighter on whom Mexico depends. Cinco de Mayo, that's his date. Mexican Independence Day, that too belongs to Canelo. A kid from Guadalajara didn't just go mainstream, he went global. A vicious puncher, classically trained, with titles in 4 divisions. Oh! And even in rare defeat, consumed with making history.
The concrete stone hands of Canelo.
The accuracy of Canelo, second to none.
What Canelo did at 168 pounds remains without precedent.
Canelo has accomplished so much. He's already forced his way into the all-time greatest Mexican conversation.
Still, his reputation itself has come under question. Not the biggest man Canelo's ever faced, but the biggest threat to his legacy. While each fight changes the boxer, this fight could change boxing history.
And this one is over.
And he is still at the top of his game.
A lot of gold on the mantle of Canelo Alvarez getting ready to fight Terrence Bud Crawford September 13th. We welcome Max Kellerman back right now. You went down to the floor to observe the festivities. Any major takeaways from this final act on the World Tour?
I actually want to mention they showed belts there. When you hear someone talk about a Ring Magazine belt, and Turki Al-Sheikh bought Ring Magazine,
Right.
so there's an affiliation here. But I've been saying this for the last 25 years, whenever they changed the Ring Magazine policy, started awarding belts. The Ring Magazine belt means you are the champion in the division, not because someone promotes it or owns it, but because the policy itself means if you unify sanctioning body belts or otherwise beat the top fighters in the division, you get the Ring Magazine belt. It co-opts the legitimacy and the authority of the sanctioning bodies. You see Terrence Crawford, Ring Magazine champion at lightweight, junior welterweight, welterweight. He's going for his 4th one.
Right.
There've only, Henry Armstrong didn't do that. Manny Pacquiao really is the only true 4-division champion who's ever done that. So, Crawford is trying to be that. And that's what Canelo is. It's a big deal. But I wanted to mention something also about who's involved in this fight. Turki Al-Sheikh has been a dream come true for boxing fans. He's just waving his wand, and the best fights are being made. Fights you didn't think could be made. And he's partnered now with Dana White. You know Dana well. I made the comment last week that Dana is the greatest combat sports promoter of my lifetime. And I've heard some people talk about, well, that's not true. He hasn't promoted boxing yet, and he hasn't done as many good fights as this promoter or that promoter. But what Dana White has done is build an institution. No one else has done that ever really in boxing. He built an institution, the UFC, that could survive him, right? That also happened in the WWE. WWE was built as an institution that has survived its first, the guy who built it, right?
Yeah, right?
Because when you build an institution, if you get a very competent executive, Nick Khan is the most competent executive, the institution goes on. And it becomes like the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball. No one has really ever done that in boxing. Dana's done it in mixed martial arts, and now it seems with Turki Al-Sheikh, Dana White, and Nick Khan, the same kind of attempt is being made for the first time ever, really, in boxing, and it feels like it has a shot to actually work as a result. This being on Netflix, for example, means that, as I mentioned earlier, it will be easily the most watched boxing event in 47 years. That's how you start institution building.
Yes.
You build a big tent, you get everyone to pay attention, and you populate your organization with highly competent people. And the last point is who love boxing. Dana White loves boxing. I go back with him now 25 years. Boxing fans, you should understand this. If you go to the UFC headquarters, every room you walk into is like a boxing museum.
Yes.
The amount of love and respect for boxing in the UFC is unbelievable. There's priceless artwork, Muhammad Ali, a bronze statue of Joe Louis, books on boxing, and they're so proud. Dana's so proud to display it all. And they talk boxing. He loves it. Turki Al-Sheikh's love for boxing is obvious.
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy, he's every boxing fan who ever said, if I could do anything in boxing, I would do this, this, and this. But he has the means to do it, and he's doing it.
Yeah.
And Nick Khan, who's president of the WWE, is easily the most effective operator I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This whole thing really has a shot, and it couldn't be starting off in a bigger and better way than Canelo and Crawford.
And I just have to say, if Lorenzo Fertitta had not bought the UFC and alongside Dana White in 2005, there is an argument to be made that mixed martial arts as a sport would actually cease to exist here in the United States of America.
I don't want to drag it on, but I'm glad you brought that up. Because a lot of times you can look at historical events and think, well, yes, this person is credited with doing something, but the circumstances were such that the sweep of history, it would have happened with them or without them.
Right.
It would have just been someone else.
Right.
That is not the case with the UFC.
Yeah.
If not for Dana White, that would not happen. That is not the case with what's happening in boxing now. If not for Turki Al-Sheikh, it would not happen.
Yeah.
These guys are not born. This does not happen.
Yeah. So we didn't see as much cordiality and respect today necessarily as we have seen in the build-up to this fight. Before we get to the training camps and what the next couple months might hold, any major takeaways from what you ingested here today?
I think that, as is often the case in boxing promotions or in fight promotions, guys can start out with a lot of respect for each other because they're fans of each other. They watch the sport and they can see the other one's really good. But as they get around each other, they're competitive people, and they start to dislike each other. because this is boxing, one winner. They're two guys, and it's not a team sport, and there's no one else. You are responsible for the whole thing, and you got to beat that guy, and he's coming for everything you have. So they are starting to, I think, develop a healthy dislike for each other, and that it will become more intense, one imagines, as this thing gets closer.
So certainly in terms of the matchmaking, it was interesting because Canelo Alvarez had a fight and some business to take care of, even though he had verbally agreed to this fight. Now we push the reset button and they head into training camp. What are your expectations for what the next couple of months are going to hold for both guys?
This is going to be super interesting for Canelo especially. Everyone's focusing on Terence Crawford because he's the smaller guy. How much weight is he going to put on, et cetera, et cetera. No rehydration clause in this fight. Meaning, like when Floyd Mayweather fought Canelo Alvarez, because Canelo's the bigger guy, he put a rehydration clause in, because Floyd was the money guy. If Canelo wanted the payday, he had to acquiesce and give Floyd what he wanted. Canelo's the money guy. Terence Crawford can't go in there and say, hey, I want a rehydration clause. Not that he even would, right? So everyone's looking at Crawford. How big is he going to be? But I'm looking at Canelo. What Canelo comes into this fight? The older Canelo, meaning the younger Canelo, the older guy, the old, long time ago Canelo, who was a really well-rounded counterpuncher, who could do everything, or this more recent Canelo, who just hunts guys down and has become more one-dimensional. That's what I'm looking at.
No one is able to provide better context nor historical framework for a fight of this magnitude. So before we let you go, any final thoughts on just how big an event we are leading up to on September 13th?
I don't know how else to put it. This will be the most watched fight in nearly half a century. It seems to me to be the first step in what promises to be a golden age of boxing.
Well, we couldn't have a better lead analyst than Max Kellerman. It all goes down September 13th, Allegiant Stadium. Canelo versus Crawford. About 78 more sleeps until the fight of the century. Can't wait to see it play out. Canelo Alvarez out of the red corner. Terence Bud Crawford out of the blue corner. We got to get on out of here with that. For Max Kellerman and our crew, John Anik signing off. We will see you September 13th from Allegiant Stadium. Good night.